Welcome to the Back to Health podcast, where we share inspirational stories of hope to help you reclaim your health. If you're suffering from a chronic condition and have been given little to no hope, if you've been told that there's nothing wrong with you, but you know there definitely is something wrong, or if you're just trying to be preventative and want to know how to reclaim your health, then this podcast is for you. I can't wait to share today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Back to Health podcast. So today we're talking about people that are struggling in whatever area of their life it might be and are looking for ways in terms of how they can overcome this. So this could be your health, this could be finances, this could be relationships, this could be your career. We're sort of broadening the net a little bit today because, as we know, our health has a knock-on effect to all other areas of our life. And so if you're finding struggle in any part of your life, that's going to affect your health. And when you're not on top of your health, you're going to struggle in other areas of your life. So our guest today is a family man, an SGI Buddhist, an actor, producer, and podcaster. And he strives to understand humanity by first understanding himself. And in his own words, that's not an easy task. So I'm delighted to welcome Richard Chiu today to the show to talk to us about how we can overcome struggles that we are facing in different areas of our life. Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for making time to be on the Back to Health podcast. And I know you've got lots of different pockets of areas of sort of knowledge to share when it comes to areas in life that people might be struggling with and how that can affect their health and vice versa. So, if you're struggling with your health, it's going to affect other areas of your life. And if you're struggling with other areas of your life, no doubt has an impact on your health as well. So I think it'll be really interesting to start with maybe the health issues that you experienced before. So you're talking about being overweight and having gout and things like that, and how that's affected and impacted other areas of your life. And then once you've been able to get your health back on track, how that's allowed you to achieve things beyond, what you've expected to be able to achieve, I guess.
Yeah, let's dig. That's a 3-level that's an inception question. I like to call those
It
inception
is.
questions because
I love
they
Inception.
could deep
So
dive,
yeah, that's
right?
where I go. Yeah.
Um, um, yeah. So I struggled with the weight of weighing 225 pounds at one time. In high school, I was I was athletic. I basically had exercise, not exercise, but classes that I would go to, or teams that I would work out with, like swim team, weight room, martial arts. I did this 4 to 6 hours a day for a good maybe 3 to 4 years. And after I got out of high school, essentially what happened was you start to get a little lazy, right? You tell yourself, I'm super fit, I'm super healthy, it's all good, let's just eat. My metabolism is high, I'm gonna just keep going. And
I'm
eventually,
young. Yeah.
you've done that, right? I mean
Yeah.
everyone's done that, I'm sure. They call it the freshman 15 here in the States, but I'm sure for me it was more of a freshman 60 to 80 pounds, right? So essentially, I ballooned up to 225 pounds, and I got in gout, and that was literally my first realization of at a point where I needed to switch my health. At the time, I was also suffering from a lot of depression and anxiety, which this is going to foreshadow a little bit into the conversation. Um, you know, I also struggled with maladaptive daydreaming, right? So that's going to be the foreshadow, right? So,
Hmm.
but going through the process of losing weight and struggling with the gout effect, so crazy. My One of my friends uh fathers had told me, after he found out that I had gout at such a young age, and he basically says to me, isn't that an old man disease?
Yeah, I was just about to say, because it's not very common in young people at all, right? So things have had to get really bad to be able to sort of get to a position where you have gout at such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is so crazy. So it just goes to show you the types of knowledge and things that are passed down, and also the society that you live in, that sort of encompasses every single thing that we I don't, to put it bluntly, I get brainwashed to eat, right? So luckily,
Yes.
I have parents that have always shown me to eat healthy foods, right? So, but because I'm such a rebel, you know, I just, I there's a point that I said I've got to eat every single thing that's not applied to this, right? And that's what I did, and that essentially that's that's how I ballooned up to 225 and got gout, and
But that
yeah,
is a really interesting point that you raise, because I do find that there's sort of two sides to it, and I have to be very mindful with my kids as well, because I am very my dad thinks I'm militant about their diet, and I am, because I care about their health and I want them to be healthy, and the issues that I've suffered I don't want them to suffer, and I want them to build good habits now so they'll have good habits for the rest of their life. But at the same time, I've got to be mindful to not be too militant sometimes, because when you can become too restrictive with your kids, I feel like when they get to the age where they're going to go out into the world on their own, it's like, oh, that thing my mum didn't let me have, and that other thing my mum didn't let me have, and it's almost like a free for all buffet, right? So I think it's really hard to find that balance of where you're empowering your children to make good decisions and make food choices, and you can't always restrict what's in front of them, because you go to your family's house or you go to a friend's house and there's something there which you wouldn't normally buy for your kids, but my dad's offering them something and he's like, have a little bit of cake, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's nearly bedtime, cake is not okay. This is not the time to give them this. But it's really hard to find that balance, and I guess your story really shows that your parents gave you such a good grounding and foundation, but then when you came to you and your own devices, it was like, I'm gonna have all those, I'm gonna have all those things.
right.
So that is really.
How old are you kids?
So they're 6 and 3.
6 and 3. See,
Yeah.
I think 6 and 3 are, if they're not going to miss anything that what they don't know, right? So,
Right.
I mean, I have a 3-year-old, and he has no idea what hot dogs are or hamburgers are, because
Yep.
we raise him completely gluten-free vegan, and the biggest worry that my parents had, and I think some of her family had, were well, how does he get his protein? Well, to be honest
Mm,
with you, I've been studying health for the past 25 years, because I suffered and struggled with my weight and also gout. I had to find ways to um, keep my body as energetically up, right?
yeah.
That's really the focus, is to energetically up, and for him, I mean, to answer all those other questions and kind of put those fires out, uh, there's plant protein, and you think about apes. The apes don't eat other animals; they eat
Yeah.
leaves, right? And but they're so huge and strong. So you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, let's rethink this, and let's help other people around us rethink this. That look, I mean, look, there's no issue. I have no issue if you eat meat. Once in a while I do eat meat, but I've dwindled it down to just possibly eating eel, right? But I'm even
Hmm.
considering taking that out after watching this movie on Netflix called Seaspiracy. It's a documentary. If you haven't seen it yet, please
Yeah.
watch it. It's really mind blowing. So I'm even getting to that point where I've stopped. I'm going to stop eating all meats, right? So, but overall, we just have to program our mind to understand that there are other forms of protein that that are plant based that can help us gain um, uh, the muscle that we need, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think it's really important sometimes that it's like, I don't know, in some ways, food and nutrition is so personal. Like, it's personal to each individual, and we all have different views of sort of like what's the right thing to do. Like, should you eat meat? Shouldn't you eat?
sure.
There's so much debate. And if you watch every documentary out there, there are some amazing ones, and the one you mentioned, is really great. But then it's like you will just start eliminating things out of your diet one by one, and then you're sort of left in a there's that question about children in particular, like who makes that decision for them? Like, do we make that decision on their behalf? Do we let them grow up and make that decision? So there's lots of sort of like things to weigh up when it comes to that. But I think my main point is that we give children the reasoning behind why we do things or why we think things. And as much as possible, we allow them to make the decisions about what they eat. So when my kids wake up and they're like, right, breakfast, what do you want for breakfast? And then my daughter's always like, well, what can I have? Like, well, there's options. You can have egg, and that's high in protein. But I always explain it like it's high in protein and it will help you do this and it's good for this. You can have cereal full of sugar, full of carbs, and it will make you probably have a headache once you finish eating it. Or
Right.
you can have fruit, and this is what it's going to do for you. So anything I present to my kids, I give them the full reasoning and background behind, like, what is this going to do to your body? And then it's up to them to choose it. And some days she will choose cereal, and that's up to her. And when she goes out the door, she's like, oh, mommy, I got a bit of a headache. Yeah, drink some water because you need to get that sugar out your body. But next time you'll make a better decision. And so that's sort of how I try to see and educate our children around it, because I want it to always be their choice. I don't want them to feel like I've restricted something from their diet or I've made a decision for them. But they grow up understanding, like, oh, she did tell me I was going to get a headache if I ate that, and then I did get a headache. So next time I won't choose the cereal. Like, I won't go
Yeah.
for that option.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think that's the most empowering thing we can do for our children, is to give them the choice. Obviously not to overwhelm them, but to give them two or three choices so that they can have
yeah.
the power to decide
Yes.
what they want. Because I mean, if you can raise a kid to be strong like that and confident like that, that
Yeah.
that will help in the future. The way they talk to people, interact with others, the way they express themselves. I mean, it's super, super important, and I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, because I just think, just thinking about, like you said, we're sort of brainwashed into eating all these foods. And it's like you walk into a supermarket and you expect that what you find in the shop are things that you can eat because they're selling them for consumption. And so 90% of the stuff in the shop you should not put into your body, right? It's all full of sugar. It's all not good for you. Like even some meat has sugar in it. It's been processed. It's been whatever's happened to that stuff. So if you can't actually trust 90% of the stuff in the shop because it's not real and it's not food and it's not for your body, how do we expect our kids to walk into a shop, and make those decisions? Because it's overwhelming the number of things that are sold that we are told to eat, which are not actually food. And some of them are even worse because not only do they not give you nutrition, but they strip your body of the nutrition that you already have inside of you as you are eating them and putting them through your system. So I feel like it's a really important thing to empower our children to make good decisions now, because I feel like the world can only get more, the more options that you have and the more decisions you have to make, our children have to grow up to be really good decision makers, because otherwise they will lose that ability to be able to look at a package and think, do I put this inside my body or do I not? Or in the future, if that's drugs or if that's alcohol, they need to be able to make those particular decisions. Like it extends to every part of their life, basically. But back to your story about the struggles that you were facing then. So what support system did you have, and how did you clean up that sort of your diet and get back on track with your health?
Man, I didn't have a support system at the time. I essentially had to do a lot of footwork, initial, paving of the road, right? Pioneering, if you will, right? So, um, I, you know, I just did as much research as possible. And at that time there wasn't the internet. So you had to go to different avenues of, like talking to other people and finding out
Mm.
how to, like what they did or recipes. And to be honest with you, I don't remember. All I remember is having this thing called the cabbage soup diet. You remember the cabbage soup diet?
Oh, my mom did this because she was suffering from a chronic illness, and her
Yeah.
doctor told her to go do the cabbage soup diet. So we had to do it too.
Yeah.
Like we had to eat it too. It was
It
disgusting.
was so disgusting. You know what? It was the doctor. That was my support group, and I don't consider that as a support group whatsoever. But
No, no.
not to say that doctors aren't great. I mean, there's a lot of doctors, but during the time, it was so sort of the way the archaic in a way, right? I mean, who does cabbage soup with chicken with no seasoning, and this is what you
Oh,
eat,
it's
right? Like,
terrible.
who does this?
Yeah.
And I was so tired. I was so grumpy, and yeah, it just didn't work for me. So I started to I mean, Barnes and Noble, the bookstore, was literally my hangout for about 2 years, because that's all I did at the bookstore was go to the health and self-improvement section and read different things about health and all these resources that were at hand, right? So I guess I guess to kind of answer your question, I did have a support system. It were the books
Books.
at the Barnes and Noble section, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, I've had to do a lot of groundwork, personally, and it was tough. But it took me a good about 2.5 years to really get down back to my high school weight. And the way I did that was by incrementally moving towards my goal. So, for instance, 225, my first goal was 200. And that was the easiest to lose because everything was water weight.
Yeah.
200 to 180 was I lost that in about a year, but the last 20 pounds or so were the toughest, right? So,
Mm.
so tough, so tough. But I think through the process, and I'm still constantly learning. I'm at this point where I'm practicing Dr. Sebi's electric food list. Are you familiar with Dr. Sebi?
No, I never heard of it.
Dr. Sebi is amazing. He's Yeah, Google Dr. Sebi, Sebi. He,
Hmm.
his food list is amazing because there are a lot of foods that I was eating that I thought was healthy, but it's not considered an electric food. It's considered a hybrid food or a man-made food. For instance, we
Hmm.
all know that broccoli, especially westernized broccoli, isn't an original form. It's a hybrid of something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that actually hurts the body. It creates mucus in the body, right? So
Yeah.
what Dr. Sebi's list has are foods that remove the mucus from your body, because mucus is the number one form of causing a disease of
Yeah.
any sort, right? So now for the past for the past 2.5 years, I've been really practicing Dr. Sebi's food list, and we've seen so many changes in our body. I used to have these rashes that would come up, and those are disappearing, or pretty much
Wow.
have disappeared. My brain fog has disappeared. I mean, so many different things, and obviously, maladaptive daydreaming, like, diet has everything to do with how your mind works, right?
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I think what you're talking there about is like a lot of the inflammation, the everyday inflammation that so many people are dealing with, and you sort of take it as normal because most people are suffering from inflammation of some kind in their body. And it's like that digestive issue, well, when I eat that food, that's just how it makes me feel, or I just get that little rash when I eat that particular food, and you just cope with it because you think it's normal, it's just part of the process.
Right.
But actually what you mentioned is really important because so many people think like things like broccoli, that's really healthy for you, that's really good for you, that's but we have to understand like how has this food been engineered, how has it been grown, and actually would we have eaten it in times like in paleo times, like if you go back to Paleolithic diet, is that something our ancestors would have eaten? Did it even exist in their time? So even things like potatoes come under question because we consume so much potato, and it's not something that's Paleolithic. So it's so interesting that all these food, even the foods that we think to be healthy are not for us. So I'll definitely be looking into that list because I'd love to learn more about any of the other foods that he recommends to avoid, because there are issues that as you work on your health you understand, because your body is so sensitive to what you put into it, and it can give you feedback like immediately. When your body's overwhelmed with toxins, it doesn't matter what you put into your body, it can't really feed back to you because it's like, I'm overwhelmed, there's too much stuff going on here. But when you've eliminated all those toxins and all the allergens and all that kind of stuff, and then you introduce something to your body, it's so good at speaking to you and saying, this is not something that you should be putting into your body because I'm going to react in this particular way. So it's so interesting when your body can keep giving you signals so you can get closer and closer it's almost like the breadcrumbs, like a trail of your health, and you can get closer and closer and closer to optimal health. So it's been interesting that obviously focusing on your health and figuring out things on your own, I'm just so fascinated that even though you were doing it in pre-internet times, and now we have this internet and this wealth of knowledge, although it's easier to do your research, like you don't have to go sit in a Barnes and Nobles to do your research, you can do it from the comfort of your home. I don't know that the actual way that people have to deal with their health has changed that much, because you felt very alone, isolated. You were given a cabbage, soup diet and all that kind of stuff, but you didn't really feel supported. And I can say my recent experience as well, I felt the same to be the case. Like, you go to the doctor, you're looking for support, and you still have to come back and do all your own research and go down all these rabbit holes, and you've got to go and find the information. It's one of the reasons I started this podcast in the first place. I have had to do so much research to be able to get to where I need to get to with my health or for my family, that we need to share these stories so people are able to get that information more easily, because otherwise we'll all spend years and years and years going down the same rabbit holes, trying to find the right answers to our health. So once you were able to reclaim your health, what did that allow you to do? Like, what became your mission? What became your sort of like, what did it instill in you in terms of what you wanted to achieve?
What I wanted to achieve. First of all, I just want to address, like, sharing information. I'm a huge fan of the of hive mentality, right? And
Yes.
so hive mentality is amazing. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was experiencing major depression, major anxiety. My wife and I were at the crossroads of our relationship. We had been together for 10 years at the point, and we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to continue our relationship. And I, I had kind of termed us at that point two people that were afraid of commitment in a committed relationship, right? So
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
decided to fully commit, that's when the universe starts to move, right? It's like when the
Mm.
student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And
Yeah.
right, so in a matter of several months, I encountered Buddhism, which is SGI Nutrient Buddhism. And what we do is we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which means Nam is I am, Myoho is the mystic law, Renge is cause and effect, and Kyo is through sound. So essentially, you're chanting I am the mystic law through cause and effect through sound. So this is like a practice of really just self-reflection, and also
Mm.
really raising your life condition. And on another level, you're in a community that's extremely supportive. I mean, super supportive. I mean, it's so supportive that when I first started practicing, I thought everyone that was happy here, it was fake happiness, but
Fake.
they were
Yeah.
so happy, right? And I just thought, why are people so happy? And I realized after practicing a year why people started becoming, why people were so happy, right? So to answer your question with that, like, so after I got over the struggles and losing my weight and overcoming the gout, I was still struggling with a lot of different things. And right before I started practicing Nichiren Buddhism, I uh, I found this term called maladaptive daydreaming. And maladaptive daydreaming is essentially excessive daydreaming, and the inability at times to be present. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so to kind of put it really simply, it's like we all visualize, right? We all visualize, but and but most of us can visualize and take action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but for a maladaptive daydreamer, it's all visualization.
Right.
Okay, it's like the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's constantly imagining all these things, but he doesn't take those steps towards it, right? So
Yes.
what this practice has taught me to do over and over again is to be present. And it's actually helped me through so many of my own, like, tumultuous, like, moments in my life where I just think, man, I can't bear with this. The last few days I had I got hit with some really deep stuff. And if I and I started chanting, but if I didn't have this practice, I'd probably be sitting in my corner not wanting to come out and be present. and
Yeah.
maybe skip this interview, right? But
Yeah.
because I have this practice, I'm able to really voice it through this power of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and get over it, and so that I can continue advancing in my life. So hopefully that answers your question in multiple fold.
Yeah. That's fantastic, and I think it's so fascinating because I guess that chanting, and people have different ways to do it. So it might be meditation, or whichever spiritual practice you sort of have. I think that grounding of spiritual practice is so important because it is that thing that you mentioned of coming back to the present and being able to be in the present. So there's multiple ways you can do it. There's flower remedies. There's all sorts of things that can help you bring you back into the present moment. But for people who are struggling with anxiety, with depression, with anything that takes you out of the present moment, so you're either really worried about you're obsessing over the past and rethinking it, and or you're looking to the future and you're constantly worried about what's happening in the future, just some sort of grounding practice where it brings you into the present moment is always super helpful, because it just takes away all those. It's like the process is running in the background. It just switches everything off for a second so that you can just focus on where you're supposed to be right now. And what would you say? Because I know you've got like many little things on your belt. Like you've got acting, and you've got producing, and you've got. How did you get into that side of things? Like how? Because I mean, I guess for someone who comes from where you've struggled so much with your health, going into an industry like that, which can be very competitive, very difficult to get into, it's a challenge, right? It's like adding challenge to challenge. What made you want to sort of go down that route?
I didn't want to. The universe
Wow.
placed it in front of me, and I just looked at it, and I just thought, all right, this is what you're placing in front of me. Now I have to do this. It's like I have to do this, right? But
Right.
I originally started off as a musician for years, and I did the whole uh, performing live. But if essentially I sat into a lot of producing and started producing many different acts. Went into electronic producing because I thought it was a perfect medium for me. And, again, I'm by myself. I can create this world, right? And
Yeah.
it was fulfilling for me. And I at a point, I've did it for about 10, 15 years, and I got burnout. And at the time, I had just ended a 2-year relationship, and I was burnt out on music. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, so I ended up getting a job at a supermarket called Trader Joe's. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Trader
Yeah, I
Joe's.
know it.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
great. So, got a job there, and through through the next 8 months, all I heard was, "Are you an actor? You should be an actor. Are you an
That's
actor? You should
brilliant.
be an actor." Actually, and I'm like, "I'm not an actor. I'm a musician. I'm a musician, right?" Because there's this thing with musicians and actors. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is,
you're
but
not the same thing.
no, not the same thing. Until around 8 months, this lady came into my lane and asked me if I was a musician, and I said, "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" And she said, "Well, you should be an actor." I was like, "Oh, okay, okay,
Brilliant.
this is how it's happening, right?" So I asked her, "What do you do?" And she told me she was an agent. She gave me her card.
Wow.
Turns out is it was one of the top agencies in the nation, in the U.S. And I went in, and within 5 minutes, she gets a call. Um, she talks to the casting director, looks at me, hangs up, and she tells me that I have my first audition. And I said, listen, I didn't agree to anything. I don't want to be an actor. As a matter of fact, I hate acting. I don't want to be in front of the camera. She said, "You'll do great." 3 days later, I go in for the audition. 3 days later, I booked it, and then a month later, I get a recurring role, and I end up booking all these national commercials and a few other roles, and I just thought, okay, if this is what the
What's
universe,
happening?
yeah, if this is what the universe is telling me, then I'm gonna be open. But here's the thing about mother acting. Um, Mother Universe, in the universe of acting, she likes to, you know, challenge you. And
Yeah.
I consider mother acting as like mother creative, right? Like everything that you want to do in life, she's there to support you, but she's not going to make it easy for you because she wants you to,
Mm,
challenge yourself,
grow.
right? But if you're not liking something, she's going to tease you, and she's going to give you all this and then take it away from you so that you can actually build yourself a good foundation, right? So that's what happened. So my first year was amazing. My second year was amazing. My third year sucked. Okay, I mean, I consumed myself with and saturated myself with acting classes nonstop for 5 years, right? But year 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 were the worst years in terms of booking for me,
Mhm.
and I was so frustrated, and I just didn't understand, like, why this was happening to me, and it was tough, right? So, and then one of my acting mentors had told me to start producing, because he said that, look, listen, you are a minority in this industry. You need to start creating
Mm.
your own stuff. And so I heeded his advice, and I just started collaborating, because initially what had happened, kind of going back to the whole Trader Joe's experience, one of my mantras, during the 8-month time, was, I want to work and collaborate with people at the highest level. I didn't care what it
Love it.
was. I didn't care what it was. And so when it presented itself to me, I fought it, and eventually I gave into it. And now through the process and through the journey, I'm here, right? And at this point, I have a really amazing producer mentor, who's taken me under his wing. As I'm working with him with his projects and his team. I'm also at the point where I'm in financing stage with my own studio. I'm starting a studio for micro budget films, specifically, to support a lot of the new filmmakers, that need the support, because there's so many filmmakers that you know have good material but don't know how to get into the industry, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And as far as acting, I'm open. I used to have the mentality of, I've got to book this specific project, and that doesn't work, because that would be too easy, right? Again,
Mm.
going back to mother mother creative, she's not going to make it easy. So as long as I'm communicating with her, and just letting her know, I'm open, and I will take full responsibility of every single thing that you put in front of me, and I will do my best for whatever you put in front of me. And that's what I can give you. So, I also want to work with the best people, as possible, right? So these are the things that are in my world currently. So yeah, and yeah, it's really all about consistently moving forward.
Yes, I think that's a really important point, because that story is just so fascinating. Like, after being pushed into something you weren't even thinking about or wanted to do, then to find yourself struggling in that same thing. Because I guess for a lot of people, they have this desire, like maybe like, I want to be an actor, and it's so deeply ingrained that for them it's their why, and sort of the thing that keeps them going, and the thing that allows them to waitress tables and do all the other stuff until they get to where they want to go. Whereas it's so interesting for you, it's almost flip reverse, where you didn't want to do it, you were pulled into it, you were dragged into it, and then it's like, but now something's not working and something's not right, and I've got to find it in myself to either make this work for whatever reason, even though it might not be my strong why, or I've got to find other avenues of, or maybe this is an opportunity for pause and growth. And maybe I turn my attention to producing, because I'm then instrumental in bringing the projects that I want to bring intentionally to the world, which is, that is powerful in itself. Are there any projects that you can tell us about that you have worked on or are working on that might give some inspiration to people in terms of like the types of projects that you can now work on, because you're giving yourself the freedom to be open to anything?
That's a good question. For as a producer, So in my studio platform, there's two different types of departments. Department A is primarily focused on micro budget films to low budget films, right? And Department B are co-collaborations with other production companies.
Hmm.
My mentors production company, one of the last films that they've done was Son of the South with Spike Lee, right? And so that was pre my my joining their team,
Hmm.
but I'm learning so much from them because he's been in the business for about 30, 35 years, and he's been through it all. I've been on it on a minimal level in terms of understanding certain facets of it. So he's being such a great encouraging support and help. Any questions I have, currently we're so looking for funding for many several of the projects on his slate, which have is essentially, I mean, talking about working with highly collaborative people on a high level. I mean, he's working with the pros, and that's that's all I can ask for is to work with the pros, right? And so I'm learning ground up from him, many of different ways of like fundraising and also dealing with professional people. Going back to Department A, uh, you know, I have a large network of filmmaker friends that haven't been able to get any of their projects launched, right? And so I'm essentially using a lot of my experience from the past 10 years as a producer, and as I'm gaining more experience from this, I'm implementing it into Department A. And at this point, we're developing. I'm working with many writers developing scripts, and so that when the funds do come in, we'll be ready to move those things forward, right? In terms of acting, I can't really say which project. Let's just say it has to do with space, and it's a TV show. So
Okay.
that I'm going to be shooting this Monday, but
How
um,
exciting.
it is very exciting. So yeah, I mean, it was actually like left field exciting because they give a pseudonym or a fake name for it, and I thought,
Yeah.
okay, this is the name of the project, great. And then in turn, it's this massive title, and I thought, what just happened here? Like, what is going on? So anyway, but so in terms of like acting, that's what's happening, and I'm doing the podcast. Uh, and I'm putting a book together about maladaptive daydreaming. I'm putting a YouTube video on how to overcome, more of an overview on how to overcome maladaptive daydreaming, um, and um, and some other stuff that I can't remember right now.
I'm sure there'll be lots of interesting stuff to come. So keep us posted in terms of how things go. But yeah, really look forward to all those projects and sort of seeing them come together. But I think it's one thing that always inspires me when I hear people's health journeys and their health stories is just how many opportunities it opens up. Like when we're going through a health issue, like it's obviously no fun and it's isolating and it's scary. And until you can actually find answers or solutions, or you go down the right rabbit hole and you find the things that actually do help you and transform the situation, it can be really, really hard. But I find that when people come out the other side, like every time I do a podcast, I am so inspired because it's not just understanding the health issue and how you overcome it, but it's also what do then people go on to do. And there's all these amazing things that they wouldn't have done, I don't think, if it hadn't been for the health issues that they experienced in the first place, because that plays a large role and part in what they go on to choose, or how they choose to utilize their time, and how much more mindful they are about the time they spend on the planet and how they spend it and who they spend it with. So would you agree with that? Has that shaped a lot of what you've chosen as and how you've sort of like set up the projects and the people that you work with?
I mean, I definitely have to say health is number one, because without health, you can't really do anything.
Yeah.
But I've also been in the position where I felt like crap, and I was still doing the things that I was doing. It just, the attitude was different. I think personally, it just comes down to how I feel and the attitude that I'm portraying, and also giving, right? So um, I yeah, I mean, I think for me it's really just about just doing my best to feel good. I mean, I can go into a project and have a really bad day and feel massive anxiety and still go through the process, of doing something, uh, but but not necessarily feeling good, not feeling good about the project, but just feeling good about myself, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And what are your tools in that moment? So when you are finding yourself like on set or about to start a project and you just like, I'm not feeling it today. Like I'm not together, or I feel something's coming up. What are some of the tools that you use in those situations?
I chant. There are times that I chant if I'm in front of people and I can't chant out loud. I'll chant under my breath. And sometimes, Buddhism is wisdom, right? And Buddhism is life. So that doesn't mean that there's only one thing for me as a person. The best thing about this practice is that when I first came into this practice, I asked, I go, what about all the other practices that I do? Do I have to throw those away? And I was told, no, you don't throw those away. You just continue moving forward. And when things start to fall off, then let them naturally fall off. Right. So, so I took that advice. And if I feel like I need a little bit more than just chanting, I will always do some sort of, a tapping, EFT tapping. Right.
Yeah.
Brad Yates is amazing. If you haven't heard of him, his goal is to hit 1 million. So I'm going to support Brad Yates on YouTube to hit 1 million subscribers. He's only at 120,000 subscribers. So please help him, get to 1 million, because he's like the best teacher on YouTube.
He's been
So
doing it for ages.
ages.
Yeah, he's been
So
doing it for a while.
so let's all subscribe to Brad Yates, and let's not tell him who put this out there. But so, sometimes I'll use tapping. Sometimes I'll use Wim Hof breathing. Sometimes I'll,
Yes,
I'll
love
listen.
that.
Yeah, sometimes I'll listen to Abraham Hicks, or Joe Vitale, or I mean, I studied self-improvement for about 25 years, and my catalog of tools that I go to can vary, so it just really depends, but my primary tools are chanting, and EFT, and breathing. Those are my top three.
Yeah, I love those. And I think it's so powerful. I think sometimes people don't realize something as small as, well, small, I say, but simple as breathing has such a profound impact on the body. Like just 5 deep breaths when you're feeling something happening, coming on, you're feeling a bit of anxiety starting to flare up, like just 5 deep breaths. And the how quickly you can get back into a state of just calm and focus is just amazing. So even just focusing on the breath is just bringing you back into the present moment. So if you can't do chanting because it's in public, or you can't be taps, some people don't feel comfortable tapping in public either, although it's well known now and everyone knows to accept it. Just 5 deep breaths can just be really just so soothing and so healing for the body, and it's all your body really needs, because what you're just trying to do is get back into the parasympathetic nervous system. So anything you can do to activate that, that's what we should be striving for. I think it's been so fascinating to dive into all those different assets of sort of like the trajectory of where your health has then taken you. Are there any final bits of advice or nuggets that you'd like to leave the audience with in terms of things that they can look out for, or things that they should do, or action that they can take in terms of, I guess, like moving forward? That you mentioned that term of like, it's just about keeping on moving forwards. What's your best advice on how people can do that?
Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions, and also be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Because we're all human beings, and we all struggle. So there's going to be somebody out there that will not only be able to help you, but also help you to better understand yourself, and hopefully help you to be kinder, not just to other people, but to yourself.
that's the hardest thing, isn't it? I think people really struggle with being kind. They can be such lovely people, really nice to everybody else, but really struggle with being kind to themselves because we've got that inner critic. It's just like, that's not good enough, and you've not done this, and this is not okay, and you should be doing this right now, and why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you doing more? So yeah, I mean, I think we all struggle. We all struggle with that, multiple times a day, if not, like every day. So I think that's really lovely and important advice for everyone to take into account. Thank you so much, Richard. This has been such an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation, and it's been so lovely to hear your story and sort of just share that, because I think there will be people who are struggling with anything, any part of their life, who will take inspiration from the fact that it's about being open and not being too fixed on one particular idea, and just finding the tools that you need to help you move forward to be open and take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity to be on this platform. I really love this dialogue with you. And, I hope to continue, growing together as podcasters and, help getting these messages across to people that really, really need to hear whatever it is that they need to hear. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Is it okay if I pitch my podcast?
Go for it. Of course. Yeah.
Awesome. So, my podcast is called Pieces of a Nation, and it's about empowerment, and it's a lot of good dialogue, just like this podcast. Um, I interview people that have overcome cancer. I just recently reviewed an Emmy award-winning actress and her process. Um, and man, it's just so much more. But the conversations go deep, and eventually comes out to how they overcome their struggles. And Yeah, that's it. Pieces of a Nation.
So if you'd like to, love it. And if you'd like to hear more from Richard and follow what he's up to and his projects as well as his podcast, then please do check out. We'll link everything below this episode so that you can find him easily. And I look forward to following your journey and learning more and connecting with you again soon as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You're doing great.
All right.
Great work.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you would like any of the links or the show notes, you can follow them in the description below. And for more episodes of the Back to Health podcast, please be sure to follow us on YouTube, or you can follow us on Spreaker, where we host our podcast. Thanks again, and I look forward to joining you for another episode of the Back to Health podcast. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay informed.